Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Albert Einstein, no, actually, Drew Tranquil. He goes on to say, to our fans, you deserve better. Giving up leads like this is absolutely unacceptable. Stick with us. We will turn the tide.
Stay frosty and check out redzonecoins.com for the cheapest, fastest coins on the market. Use code DIRECTOR at checkout for 15% off.
Kia ora, brothers. What's up? It's the Director speaking. Kia ora. Check it out. Came in the mail this morning. All right, guys. Drew Tranquil is right. We do deserve better. The players deserve better. This team deserves better, because last night was the final straw, at least for me. It is unacceptable what is happening to the Chargers this year. Because realistically speaking, I know there's going to be some trolls in the comments like, oh, but realistically speaking, this team could be 6-1 right now, if not 7-0. But we're not. We're very far away from that number, and in the worst way possible. Yesterday proved to me that this team is stuck in the mud and the muck of mediocrity. We don't belong there. This team is too damn talented to belong there. And yet, here we are. In today's video, I'm going to be going over last night's gut-wrenching loss, and I'm going to pick that game apart. Because as ugly as it was, it serves as a valuable and ultimately final example of what this team is lacking and where it needs to change. Because change is coming. At this point, I feel like we've passed the point of no return. This game held such significance that the fallout will negatively affect the rest of the season dramatically for the Chargers. So, and the worst part is, it could have easily been avoided. Buckle up, boys and girls, because you're about to hear the first angry rant by the Director. Before we get started, hit us up with a like and sub. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. And also check out the store, man. We got brand new shirts and stuff like that. Kia ora. Lights, camera, action, stay frosty, and all the good stuff if you want to support the channel in that way. Let's get into this video. Lights, camera, action. The Los Angeles Chargers are now 2-5 heading into Week 9 after a truly devastating loss to the Denver Broncos. This one hurt. Like, we've already been through this 4 times this year, but this game was different, and I think we all know why. This game should have been the jumping off point for the Chargers to make history, taking their incredible rookie quarterback and a team that's been labeled as underdogs to the playoffs. Because this team was literally given everything to make that happen. A prodigy quarterback in Justin Herbert, an exceptional defense, an extended playoff bracket allowing us a bigger opportunity to compete despite being in the same division as the Kansas City Chiefs. It's all there. It literally all fell in our lap. And yet we dropped the ball, and in spectacular fashion. Now we're going to go over the repercussions of this loss in just a few minutes, but firstly, I'd like to go over the narrative of this game, because we're getting close to 24 hours since that game, and I am still ticked off. The Chargers versus the Denver Broncos, a division rival that I must admit is my most hated in the AFC West for me personally, because I'm in an area where the Broncos hold a majority of the NFL fandom. They are everywhere. For years, if I was going to go watch a game at a bar or a restaurant, it would be me alone versus a flurry of Broncos fans. So yeah, this is a matchup that I especially hope that we win every year. But this game in particular, it meant more than my personal vendetta against Denver. I feel like it was a crossroads. Are the Chargers really contenders? Are they capable of taking it to the next level with rookie quarterback sensation Justin Herbert? Is this team for real? People were asking those questions. And I, for one, believe that we are for real. I believe that this roster is incredible. I believe we got incredibly lucky drafting quarterback Justin Herbert, who even right now is breaking records. But after yesterday, I feel like we took a wrong turn. Or rather, we didn't take the right turn. Because the path didn't split left to right. It continued straight or veered right. And we chose to keep traveling in the same direction because the fear of the unknown was too much to turn right. Even though the road looked promising, we were too stubborn to take a look in that direction. And honestly, I can see why. Because symbolically, going straight for the Chargers always looks great at first. This, of course, referring to our first half success in most games. Now let's get into a little bit of this game because I want to expand on that. The Chargers defense looked spectacular in the first quarter versus the Broncos, allowing only 3 points, which was because of an interception by Justin Herbert, putting them in spectacular field position. The defense stood up and only allowed 3. Bravo. But this brings me to my first point. We need to put up points ourselves, right? So on our next drive, we drive down to the 29-yard line and face in 4th and short situation. Now, I understand the Chargers aren't super confident in a kicker, Money Badger, so we elect to go for it on 4th down. Now, I like the decision to remain aggressive. But what I witnessed next made me realize something, because on that 4th and short play, Herbert hands it off to Kelly and gets absolutely walloped in the backfield for -4 yards. I mean, wow. This offensive line is bad. Like really, really bad. But honestly, it doesn't all fall on them completely. Let me explain. Now, if it were me, with my little, Madden controller, I would have done one of two things. I formation, hand it off to my fullback, or sneak it with my 6'6" quarterback. Seems logical, but instead, Shane Steichen lines up the offense in some sort of single back ace formation. 2 wide receivers, 1 halfback, the line, all that. Now, when I saw this, I thought to myself, okay, I guess the Chargers aren't super confident in running it here, so this is probably some sort of RPO. And given Herbert's history and his success with RPOs, it's probably going to be a quick pass to Allen. This could work. But then Herbert takes the snap under center. Uh-oh. He completely turns around to hand it off to Kelly. Uh-oh. I think this was always meant to be an inside zone run. And then boom, turnover on downs. Now, me, an armchair quarterback, an unexperienced Madden player with no real life experience in the NFL, I see this as a very poor play call on 4th and short because it's just so obvious and uncreative. The moment Herbert fully turns his back to the line of scrimmage, I think it's pretty obvious that it's a run and an easy read for Denver's defense. And at this point, there's like no way that this is going to work. Now, the reason I've spelled all of this out is because I feel like this is a prime example of bad play calling. This is something I guess I would try if I had one of the best offensive lines in football, and even then, it's kind of a stretch because it's just too obvious. And at this point, my approval to go for it on 4th and short goes out the window because the execution was just so poor. But at this point, I'm still what? Our defense is playing well. We're not in a bad spot yet, but then our next drive results in another punt. What's going on? Now, I hate to admit it, but it does seem like Herbert has been needing a little bit of time to warm up these past few weeks. Don't get me wrong, as a whole, he had a great game. He alone gave us a chance to win that game. But he didn't look great for the first half. It really was in the last few minutes of the second quarter that he began to heat up. And yes, some of his throws were bad. Too high, too fast, whatever. But I think you also need to mix in the fact that we were putting him in a pretty bad position for most of the first half too, because I think our run game is not that great anymore. But director, the Chargers totaled over 200 yards on the ground this game. Yeah, and that's great. In terms of like chunk plays and stuff, we're still very dangerous on the ground. But my eyeballs also saw a huge lack of consistency on the ground. Too many times that I see run plays hinder us in terms of moving the chains. 1st and 25, run. 2nd and 11, run. 3rd and 8, draw. I know establishing the run is important here, but again, I feel the timing and the play calling was definitely putting Herbert in a bad position when we did ask him to sling it. But despite this, Herbert still had a pretty decent game. Not the best, but decent. And I really think it does speak to really how talented he is as an individual, as a player. His touchdown in the second quarter, I think, was a great display of his chemistry with Keenan Allen. A pump fake by Herbert, quick burst by Keenan Allen. Next thing you know, he's in the end zone. Great poise by the quarterback. Great route by the wide receiver. Later in the quarter, Herbert finds Williams on a deep ball. A bit of a sketchy pass, but Williams does turn around and find the ball before his coverage does. This leads to a neighbor's touchdown moments later. A few minutes into the third quarter, Herbert finds Williams again for another score, this time out deep. Beautiful touch pass by Herbert and a great one-handed catch by Mike Williams. We're starting to heat up at this point. I also have to mention that Badgley quietly did have a nice comeback this game, nailing a long field goal at this point to put us up 21-3. But this is where the wheels started to fall off at this point in the game. More specifically, this is where the collapse began with our defense. Remember the horrendous tackling we saw last week versus the Jacksonville Jaguars? Well, we saw it again late in the third quarter. Phillip Lindsay shook off what looks like 3 tacklers off of him and took it all the way to the house. And deep inside, I knew it was coming. The defense was starting to let up. The play calling was shifting back to conservative cover 3, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Because at this point, for whatever reason, Gus Bradley retreated back to his bad habits, and I have no clue why he does this. Because it would make sense that, when you feel threatened, that you would retreat back to something that gives you some security. Maybe adding extra heat with your linebackers? No. Mixing in some man coverage? I guess not. What about your basic, spliceable, soft cover 3? Gus Bradley's like, oh, let's do that. Because the crazy thing is, it does not work. Now, I get the concept of cover 3, forcing your opponent to look underneath. You'll give up more passes, but it'll take longer for your opponent to score. The problem is, when a quarterback sees this so much, they start to recognize where to attack it deep eventually. And I feel like every quarterback that we've faced this year has identified those holes eventually. And from there, it just becomes a simple game of score, rinse, and repeat, a quarterback's dream. Now, from here, Herbert does what he can, getting us in field position to score a pair of field goals. All right, we're extending that lead a little bit. But in the fourth quarter, our 3-21 lead quickly shrinks to 27-24. How? Jerry Jeudy's running rampant, Gordon sees open space underneath all day, and the Chargers just simply never adjust. And finally, you guys ready for the last nail in the coffin? A penalty in the end zone with 1 second left on the clock gives the Broncos a chance to take the lead, and they do. Game over. Now, quickly off script here, I think it was Campbell that was on their tight end for that score or that flag or whatever. That should have been Desmond King. You guys want to know why Desmond King wasn't playing that game? Some people say it's because he's got some sort of condition playing at high altitudes, which, whatever. The most likely scenario is because they didn't want him getting hurt before they traded him today. As I'm recording this video, Desmond King has been traded to the Tennessee Titans for a 6th round pick, just adding fuel to my anger in this whole situation this weekend. But I'll talk about that again in a different video. For now, we lost the game versus Denver Broncos. What could we have done different? What could have Herbert done different? What could this defense have done realistically? We gave up 28 points late in the second half of this game. How in the world does that happen? I think, to me, the answer is simple. You took your foot off the gas. We pulled the reins back on Herbert. We don't need you to do that right now. That's something I fully expect to hear spoken on the sideline every game to Justin Herbert. That infuriates me. Herbert has the capability of winning games on his own, okay? Facts. But for 5 games this year, my eyes are telling me that the Chargers shift their mentality at some point every game. We're not playing to win, we're playing not to lose. Stop it. Because for the 5th straight time, it did not work. How many times, how many games is it going to take for the culture to change? How many blown leads is it going to take to get creative on defense? Your pass rushers are clearly gassed. The rush isn't getting home. Give them some help. And the crazy part is you have an incredibly talented linebacker in Kenneth Murray that could do that. But no, you keep putting him in coverage, an area of his game that needs improvement. So why not blitz him? Why not stuff that gap? Why not use him, to his strengths. I know that we're a 4-3 team. Bosa, Ingram, Tillery, Jones, Joseph, all these guys are great football players. But I think it's evident by now that rushing 4 every play is just not gonna work. You need to mix things up. Give them some help out there. Rush Kenneth Murray, a linebacker, a defensive back, I don't care. Give them some help because Joey Bosa looks like he just crawled out of his own grave, every third quarter. In this game, of course, he got a concussion, probably a big reason why the pass rush is so weak in the fourth. And the worst thing possible is happening because we're not making these adjustments. Their quarterback gets comfortable. They know which adjustments to make because they've seen this defense 30 times this game already. It gets easy for them to pick it apart. Their confidence grows. This is a perfect concoction for a comeback. I'm starting to think that this isn't all bad luck. I think this is coming down to like a science because to me, it's clear this team is great. It's really simple. Despite all the injuries, despite the youth, despite the rookies or the bad luck, this is a great team, but they're just being held back. They're being put in a bad position. Shane Steichen doesn't know how to fully utilize Justin Herbert. You have one of the greatest rookie quarterbacks ever. Unleash him. Stop holding him back. Gus Bradley, despite all the injuries, has a great defense. You know how I know that? Because we've proven that in the first half of every game that we've played this year. But his lack of innovativeness, adjustments in the second half is absolutely atrocious. Have the courage to change. Don't fall back to what feels safe. It's not working. As a matter of fact, cover 3 should scare the crap out of you. But ultimately, in the end, what this all comes down to, it all falls on the shoulders of our head coach. Now, I've spoken up for Anthony Lynn on several occasions, okay? I love the guy. I think he's an exceptional human being. I love the way that he carries himself, the humility and his character. I can see why players love him. I really do. But he's got a huge flaw. And that's probably the biggest one we've got on the team right now. I'll just say it. He seems stubborn. Too stubborn to change. Too stubborn to recognize when something's not working. We're not adjusting. 5 games lost this season by such close margins doesn't happen on accident. 1, maybe 2 is bad luck. Okay? 3 or 4... that's pretty bad. By the 5th one, you got to be asking yourself, is there something wrong with our leadership? Because in the end, Drew Tranquill was right. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. To our fans, you deserve better. I don't think there's any better example in this league to this statement than the Los Angeles Chargers. Over and over again, we've done the same thing. We've had more chances to win and dropped them than I could have ever imagined. Now, Lynn does deserve some credit for how this team looks in the first half. Okay, he does. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And in a weird, ironic, backwards way, the Chargers need to hear this. Usually you start out poor, but you finish strong. You guys are starting off strong and giving up. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And for all of this, I gotta say Anthony Lynn is officially on the hot seat with me, and I'm sure many other fans. Change needs to happen, and change is coming. What could it look like? Well, that is a video for another day. Well, guys, I know this was a long one, but this was an especially tough loss, one that I feel needed a lot of dissecting and honestly more of my attention than normal. I hope you guys did like it despite its length. If you did, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. And guys, thank you so much for your continued support. I do have something in the works to get you guys some extra content, eventually down the road, help the channel, in its longevity. And it really, it's all possible because of you guys. So I'm here to say thank you. I'm excited for what's coming up. I think you guys will be too. I think it's an awesome program that we're going to be starting here very soon. So look forward to that. I got more videos coming out this week. It's obviously trade week. We got some extra stuff coming down the pipeline even today. So I think it's going to be a pretty big week for the Chargers. I also want to say, ending maybe not on the worst down note, because yes, I'm upset. This was a really tough loss. I'm still very angry from yesterday, but I do want to end on somewhat of a high note. The Chargers aren't completely out of the playoff race yet. We're not completely out of it as a team yet. I mean, this could be the key to adding some humility to the stubbornness of our coaches. Maybe does promote change, and maybe we do get things turned around. It is looking extra bleak, but it doesn't mean this season is completely shot. I do think this team legitimately has a shot at 8-8, 9-7, even 10-6. You never know. But something needs to happen right now as far as change to promote that kind of new culture for the Chargers. We're not the same old Chargers. Whether or not Anthony Lynn is here or not to promote that change is up to him, and I really hope things get turned around soon. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up, pick up a shirt, and stay frosty.